Pans are ready for action, and it won't be long because snow's melting and the buckets are on the trees. I don't know if you can see them, but tapped them yesterday. This year was a very good year. I do syrup on a very small scale. Typically I only boil down between 90 and 105 liters. Well, you never know from one year to the next how much snow you're going to get when it's maple syrup time. And yeah, I got long legs, but that's normally a 3.5 or 4 foot fence, and I can't normally step over it, so that's pretty funny. Anyway, I just thought I'd show my sap saving system here. This one's full. This one's 3/4 full. The rest of them are empty. 2 years ago, it was, even last year, I'm not sure, it was really warm. And some of the sap went bad. It turned into like a thick paste. So what I'm doing here is I'm burying it in the snow. And the snow should keep it right around 0 degrees. It should stop it from freezing. It should hold it at a pretty steady temperature. That's the plan. See how it works out. Well, time to dig these beauties out of the snow and get a couple to the back. Looking good. Nice and cold, but not frozen. That's what we want. That's going to be fun carrying these across the snow there that's half frozen, half melting, with an extra 40 pounds on me. I mean, it does change from year to year, but this year, 2023, is quite unusual. I mean, the average snowpack in my yard here is 1.5 to 2 feet deep yet, and it's the 31st of March. Well, the path isn't too bad. I'm not breaking through, at least. Good thing carrying all these jugs and things to the back. I need to do a double transfer here so that I can strain the sap one more time before it goes into the actual boiler pan. Cooking strainer there. Pour it through there into this pot and then dump that pot into the boiler. Now that I got a good amount of weight off of it, I can hand bomb the rest of this into direct in. So let's get the fire going first, or next. Already got a bunch of paper, birch bark, and some small twigs in here. Fire's going. Good bed of small sticks in there. Get some bigger ones in. Well, got that started. We'll let that burn. I think I'll go in the house, get some dinner, and come back out, see how the steam is rising, and refeed the fire. Yes, indeed, she's boiling good. There's a good fire on in there. Mixture of pine and hardwood. Trying to save some of my hardwood for the house. I don't care about the pine, I can burn it in here. Miserable day. Good day for making maple syrup. Lightly raining out. And there's still a lot of snow on the ground, as you can see. And here I am out here in April Fool making maple syrup. What else would you do on a day like today? I'm giving the cold syrup out of the collection bottles a preheat before I put them into the main evaporator pan. Gotta help. As long as I got enough propane left to finish everything off. Typically what I do is I transfer it out of there once it's boiled down into here. Boiled down to about 2 or 3 inches of syrup, that's about when it's ready. But anyway, the magic number is boil it till it gets to 219 degrees Fahrenheit. 7 degrees above the boiling point. It is 10 after 11 in the morning on April the 1st. So all my jugs are empty. So that was at about 200 degrees according to my thermometer here. And I transferred it to the main evaporator, and as you can see, she's boiling hard already, so that's good. Boiling to beat the band. Got a little bracket across there to hold my thermometer. Of course, we all know it's 212 degrees. Hope this shows up, but when it boils like that in tiny little bubbles over almost the whole surface, that's when it's getting close to the flash point. So I'm going to take it out of this main evaporator, transfer it into my finishing pot. As the sap boils down and into syrup and gets rid of more and more water, you hit what's called the flash point. And what happens is, if you can see it here, it's boiling around the sides of the pot because that's the hottest point. And then all of a sudden it'll just start coming right up out of the pot. That's called the flash point. And if you don't stop it, it'll boil right over. And what we do, there's a commercial product you can use to arrest that. What I do is I just put in a dab of margarine. Okay, we've hit the flash point. You see the way that's coming up in the pan? This is the treacherous part. That's it for another year. Well, 520. Well, it's in the finishing pot. We're at about 200 degrees according to that one. And a little under 200 degrees. So this is a new candy thermometer I bought. Because this one here is really, I mean, it goes from 200 to 250. It's really hard to tell when you're at 219. This one at least goes from 200 to 220. So I should be able to tell when I'm just under 220. Well, this marks the end of maple syrup season for 2023, and if you haven't seen my videos from before, this is how I clean my evaporator pan. I take a bad situation and turn it into a good one. With spring and maple syrup comes the thaw, and we get a lot of spring runoff. It has to be pumped out of the sump hole in our basement, so I will just leave this thing in here for about 2 weeks, then it'll work its magic. I just let the natural flow of the water, nice clean water coming out of the ground under the basement to wash this thing out. It's a never-ending supply. So the video skipped over a few stages in the process. Well, a couple anyway. Certainly one was I showed you a video from 2021 of bringing it to the flash point and getting that under control, but I didn't show the point of boiling it right to 219 degrees, and I didn't show the part where I actually fill my containers. This year I elected to collect an extra 15 liters, so I had 120 liters, and that boiled down to 4 liters of syrup. And if you do the math on that, that comes out to 30 to 1, and which is unusual because most textbooks will tell you that for maple syrup it's anywhere from 40 to 50 to 1. But I have always done better than that. And I don't know all the reasons. Scientifically, there could be 2 reasons. One is a professional maple syrup guy here in Ontario told me that if you're collecting sap in sap buckets, when you go out to get your sap and there's ice on the top, he says take that ice and throw it away. He says it's mostly formed from pure water. So I do that, and you see in the video where I'm dumping the containers, there's a little bit of ice gets collected in that sieve, and I chuck it out. So, and some of the bottles, some of the ice didn't all come out, and I left it in there. So I filter out ice. That's one scientific reason. The other scientific reason is that not all trees are the same. And I just may be lucky with the trees that I have here on this property that they're good producers. They have a high sugar content or whatever. That's the only other scientific explanation I can come up with. And the other one that's a possibility, and I'm only guessing, is the method that I use. I don't take 40 or 50 liters and then try to boil that down and get a liter of syrup. Because I only have 4 trees, it takes me a while to collect any volume. So this year I originally tapped my trees on or about the first day of March. I didn't start boiling down until the 31st. So I was collecting for over 4 weeks. I collect whatever I collect, and I do the whole boil down in one day. And what I do is I put 45 or so liters in my pan and I boil that down. And when I get it down to a certain amount, I pour more in. And then when that comes down to a certain amount, I pour it in. I keep pouring and boiling until all of the sap I've collected is in the original boil pan. I have what I have, and I boil it down until it's ready to be transferred into my finishing pan. Maybe some maple syrup expert could tell me I'm crazy. It doesn't make any difference which way you do it. I honestly don't know. So that's why it's only a guess. But anyway, it was a good year. The best I've ever had. 120 liters collected, 4 full liters of sap. Usually I get somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5. And I've been bottling it in old whiskey bottles like this bottle of Grand Buey. And this year I switched to some smaller ones. These are 500 milliliter bottles I got from the brewing industry. Sometimes I make beer batches, homebrewed beer. I chose to use some of these. I could have used more, but I just made a batch of beer, and I can't drink all the beer fast enough to empty these bottles. But these are nice to have to give to family and friends, which is what I do. And I keep the bigger bottles for here. And what I do, what I recommend everyone do, when you're not using your maple syrup, put it in the freezer. It'll last virtually forever. You put it in the freezer, and when you think you're going to use it, you can take it out just a couple hours before. It doesn't really freeze completely solid, I find. And if it does, however much freezing it does, it doesn't take all that long to thaw out to the point where it's usable. And you can always speed that up a little bit by setting it in a saucepan full of warm water. That's really all I wanted to say. So thanks for watching, and take care.